our backs. So you can just keep your straps off to the side for now. And then go ahead and lie down on your back. I also have my cozy slipper socks on with the grippies on the bottom, so they might get stuck a little bit. So here you have two options. Separate the feet, bring the knees together to release the femurs into the hip sockets, or you can bring the bottoms of the feet together and let the knees hang out. And remember, if you choose to have the knees hanging out, if it gets uncomfortable after a few moments, you can always change your mind and straighten your legs. If you have a couple of pillows nearby, you can also put them underneath your knees for support. So decide where you're going to go with your legs and then have your hands, both of them, on the belly. We're going to pay attention to the shoulder blades being flat on the mat. And just maybe lift your head a little bit and bring the chin down, just a tad, so we can really release the muscles in the back of the neck. And a big part of beginning is always focusing on the breath. So without any judgment or thinking you should be doing it this way or that way, just notice how you're breathing. What kind of breath did you bring to the mat this morning? You can close the eyes, just turn off that extra distraction visually. Notice your inhalations maybe are getting a little bit deeper at this point. And maybe your exhalations are starting to get a little bit longer. We're breathing in and out through the nose. And you know, we haven't had just kind of a refresher on how to breathe. I think after we're practicing for a little bit, we get into the habit, our bodies just kind of change. But maybe you're already aware, maybe you're not, just kind of noticing what your breathing patterns might be through practice today. Maybe you have a tendency to hold your breath. That's typically what I go back to if I'm not paying attention. Maybe you only activate the chest when you're breathing. So we have the diaphragm, which is right under the rib cage. It's a really big muscle under the rib cage and above the abdominal area. So when we breathe, no matter what, we are, you know, as they would call it, diaphragmatically breathing. You're always going to use your diaphragm. It's just, are you using it to full capacity? It is a muscle. So when you're breathing, you do want to start with the belly. So belly, and then just immediately the chest rises as well. So we're using belly, lungs, and then exhale. The belly is just going to rise a little bit, but the lungs can get really big. Right now you're lying on the back side of the lungs, but you can feel the chest expand as you continue to breathe here. We're going to stay here for a few more breaths. And fill the lungs all the way up to the collarbones. Last one. Deep inhale. And exhale. And as the poses get a little bit more challenging, we'll always want to return back to that slow, steady breath. Straighten the left leg and then hug the right knee up towards the body. And your knee doesn't have to go straight up the middle of the body. It can go around the ribs. Just depends on what your mobility is in the hip. We're just gonna kind of explore today. Bring the foot down. So you had your knee as far up as you could go. Now you're gonna keep the knee up as you bring the foot down. And then drop the knee out to the right. So we're in this lying down tree pose, a supine tree pose. Bring your arms up overhead. Your right foot is touching the inner thigh of the left leg, and your left toes are pointing up towards the ceiling. So we are keeping the left leg active as we stretch the right hip. Now having your arms overhead, if you start to feel numbing or tingling, you want to bring the arms back down. And since we're focusing on the shoulders, let's go ahead and pay attention to, are we holding them up? Can we soften the shoulder sockets towards the floor here? And let's take good 3 to 5 breaths. And then we're going to bring the hands down just so we can support. We don't want to, rip the hip up here. So use your hand to support your right leg going up. Straighten the right leg and then bend the left knee. We want to be nice to our body. It does a lot of things for us. So we're hugging the left knee up towards the body. We're lengthening and activating the muscles in the right leg. Keep the right foot flexed. That's what's going to activate the muscles. And even here, while we're hugging the knee, see what's going on with your shoulders. Can you soften them? And on your next exhale, you're going to bring the foot straight down and then drop the knee out to the left. And here you can do the same thing with your arms, bringing them overhead. Maybe you open them up a little bit. Maybe you bend at the elbows and just take like goddess arms here, like it looks like a goalpost. You are going to have a little bit of a curve in the lower lumbar and the lower spine. And again, soften the tongue, soften the shoulders. We're going to take one more deep breath here. And then bring the arms down. Help your knee back up towards the ceiling. We're going to bend both knees and then one at a time so we're not pulling the lower back. Bring the knees up towards the chest. So now you're holding both knees. You're going to make sure the lower back is flat on the mat now and rock left to right. And just feel the squishing of the lower back muscles. Really find that release. And go ahead and bring the feet down. We're going to come into a twist. The whole class won't be on our backs, but that would be nice, right? We do have classes like that. Okay, so hips to the left, knees to the right. Try to get your hips as stacked as possible and then come into, for this time, you can have extended arms. So your arms are like a T or bend at the elbows 90 degrees. Try to get the left shoulder, like keep the left shoulder heavy towards the mat. Eventually, we want to get both shoulder blades on the floor. If you need some help with your knees, keeping them stacked on top of each other, you can use your right hand to just put some pressure on top of the leg. And I think something to remember through this class, we all always need a reminder for this, and I'm going to read a little something about it. We have these expectations and ideas that we hold on to of how we should do something. Even with our yoga practice, we sometimes get into this perfectionism mindset. Just enjoy and explore being on your mat today. That's why it's called a practice. Next, exhale, bring your knees up towards the ceiling, hips back to center. Plus, it's much more enjoyable that way. Otherwise, we're suffering while we're doing yoga. Who wants to do that? Hips to the right, drop the knees to the left, and then same thing with the arms, either out like a T or bend the elbows. Notice any differences on the side. Soften the tongue away from the roof of the mouth, and notice how that allows the abdominal area to be soft as well. So you're either going to come into this twist a little bit deeper when you do that, or you'll be able to just feel the twist happening more in the body, the lower back muscles. We're giving the organs a massage here. On your next exhale, bring the knees back up towards the ceiling. All right, hips back to center, straighten the legs, bring the arms overhead, take a long stretch. Arms down, bend the knees. We're gonna roll onto our right side and push ourselves up. The way you always wanna lift yourself when you're lying down on your back. Roll onto your side first. If you ever see me do it, just do what I say, not as I do. I'm just kidding. All right, have a seat. I mean, I make mistakes too, right? Okay, so we are going to stick our legs out straight. So we're in our staff pose here because it's not just sitting. We're trying to get a tilt in the pelvis. And remember, if you need to lift the sitting bones a little bit to help the spine along, roll the back of your mat and put it underneath your sitting bones and see how that helps you. We want to get nice and tall, fingertips on either side of the body. Part of helping the shoulders is strengthening the antagonist muscles that you know, are causing that tightness or weakness in the shoulder. So even here, draw the inner edges of the shoulder blades towards each other. Let the neck and top of the shoulders be, just let them release. They don't need to do the work here. One more breath. And go ahead and release that. Bend the right knee, drop it out to the side. Okay, so similar, right? We just did this with our legs, but we were lying down. Now we're gonna fold forward. So folding forward really takes a lot of back strength. You're gonna be pressing your left leg into the ground to keep it activated. And then you're also gonna feel your deep abdominal muscles engage. So let's do all of that. Inhale, lengthen through the top of the head. And then very slowly just walk the fingertips towards the feet as you exhale or towards the left foot. And even as you're doing this, what are your shoulders doing? Inner edges of the shoulder blades should be working here. So you're pulling the shoulders back. Your chin is going in the direction of the shin. If you can grab the outsides of the feet, go ahead and do that. And we'll take one more deep breath here. Remember, same breath we've been doing. Inhale and come all the way up. Take this right leg, put it over your left. Okay, we're gonna hold the knee with the left hand. This is the most pretzel-y we'll get today, I think. And also, yeah, no, we'll just keep the leg straight. Your right hand is gonna support you. We're not twisting yet. Remember, we wanna get tall and separate the vertebrae before we do that. So inhale to lengthen. And then as you exhale, start to revolve the right shoulder back. Remember, the twist is coming mostly from the thoracic spine, the middle of the back, not the lower back. Three more breaths here. And go ahead and release. Just drop your knee so your ankle is on top of your left thigh. And then we're gonna start to bend the left knee. Let me turn sideways here. These socks are really flashy, I'm not gonna lie. They're great for yoga. Okay, so we're doing a seated pigeon here. If your shin is on your thigh, that might be, it might not work the same. So make sure your ankle is on top of your thigh and keep this right foot flexed. It's gonna help stabilize the knee joint, okay? And you're going to see how far your leg will let you go as you bend the left knee. Can you get the foot flat on the mat? If you can you start walking the foot and the body towards each other? Your right leg will tell you when to stop. Listen to that. It's so important. Also, if you feel the chest begin to collapse, you'll also want to back out of it. We do want to keep the chest lifted. This is the strengthening part as we stretch the right outer leg. And breathe through any sensations you're having right now and just take notice of where you're feeling them. And then on your next exhale, go ahead and straighten the left leg, straighten the right leg, bounce the knees out a little bit. And we're going to do that whole same sequence on the left side. So bend the left knee, drop it out to the side. We're going to be going over the right leg. So inhale, lengthen first. Engage the abdominals, press the right leg to the floor. Exhale, walk the fingertips forward. So when we're stretching a muscle, we want to get to the belly of the muscle. We have to engage the right quadriceps. So if you are able to grab the foot, still pay attention to engaging the quadriceps. Shoulders are back, and breathe. So Liz, now I get to see your flexibility. Were you just all the way down? No, okay. I thought I saw you. Oh yeah, pretty close there. Yep, so just bring your shoulders back. Yes, yep. And see if you can keep them back, but still straighten your arms. Yeah. No, that's good. We'll take one more breath here. And then inhale all the way up. We'll do that crossover twist. So the left foot is going to come to the outside of the right leg. Grab the right knee, or I'm sorry, grab the left knee with your right hand. Right foot is flexed. Support yourself. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, revolve to the left. So notice what's going on with your fingers too. This is something I've been personally having to work on for a little bit. I want to smash my fingers, like bend them in a direction that's going to hurt them after a while. So you're either just holding a cupcake with your hand, fingertips to the floor, or your palm is flat. So if you need to use something like a book or a blanket or something like that to give you more height, you can do that, or you'll just have to use more muscles if you're bringing the fingertips only, which is not a bad thing. Go ahead and exhale, come back to center. We're gonna do our seated pigeon. So bring the ankle to the top of the right leg, bend the foot, and see where you go here. Notice the differences on one side and the other, and keep the left foot flexed. Find your breath. And one more. We'll exhale and start to straighten the right leg, straighten the left, bounce the knees around a little bit, and then bring the bottoms of the feet together. So our cobbler's pose, bottoms of the feet come together. We're grabbing the ankles and letting the knees fall out. So this is a really, I mean, the hips, the pelvis itself is so big. The hip joints, you could be really flexible or mobile on one part of the joint, I should say, and really tight on the other. So close your eyes even while you do this. And if your knees are all the way up here, or even if they're down here, bring your awareness to the hip joints. Even just picture the ball and socket of your hip joint. And then see if you can consciously soften in the hip joints and let go just a little bit more than what you're able to before. Remember, the hips are like the junk drawers of our body as far as emotions go. We hold a lot of stuff here. So the body is always, you know, its job is to protect us. The mind is going to protect us. Like, don't open your hips, you're going to die, because those feelings will come out, things like that. So just do your best. We're going to inhale, lengthen. And then we're going to actually push the spine to the back of the body, beginning with the abdominal area, and try to just drop the top of the head towards the floor. And as we do this, we're pressing the thighs with the elbows, shoulders away from the ears. We're going to be here for a few breaths. And then we'll inhale and come all the way up. Use your hands to bring the knees back together. We are going to come to hands and knees now. So if you need some support underneath your knees, go ahead and do that. Okay. So, and Liz, we're going to get more into the hand placement next week. So just do the best you can with this today. Usually it's pretty, I mean, I think you'll be just fine. But when anytime we're bearing weight on the hands, and we all need this reminder, no matter how many times we've balanced on our hands or are bearing weight on the hands, the fingers are spread and we're pressing, you get close here, pressing this part, like these parts of the hands into the mat, okay? Especially this L shape here and the pinky, to kind of just balance out the weight, take the weight out of our wrists. And then we have these muscles, the serratus muscles, which will activate under the armpits, and the muscles between the ribs. The inner elbows, we want them to be kind of rotating towards each other, which will give an internal rotation of the shoulders. Okay. Lastly, wrist creases. I think this is the hardest part to see. Like usually I can see you guys when I can see your wrists, and they look different to me than when you're looking straight down. So if you ever feel like your hands are going in like this, that's not gonna work, okay? If anything, they're gonna rotate out a little bit, all right? But the wrist creases, we want them to be parallel to the top of the mat, so straight forward. We're gonna do our cat pose. So just continue to warm up the spine here. Knees are hip width apart and the tops of the feet are flat on the mat. Remember where we're pressing into the hands. Inhale, lift the tailbone and lift the chin. And then as you exhale, start to tuck. No, don't tuck. Yeah, drop the tailbone, arch the back and drop the head. And the head is another tricky thing that usually is hard to release, but let it dangle here. And then we're going to do the same thing back and forth, moving with the breath. Inhale, lift, drop the spine towards the front of the body, and then exhale, arch. We're going to do this for a few more rounds. And this is your body. You might need to move the shoulders or something like that. Go ahead. Just try to follow the breath here. Do it 2 more times. Wherever you're at, 2 more rounds, and then we'll meet with a flat back. Good. Okay. First balancing pose. Now we have our hands either right under the shoulders or a little bit in front. I prefer you to have them a little bit in front just for safety. Wherever that is for you, bring them forward just a little bit more, okay? And we're gonna extend the right leg behind us, straight behind us. I know you can't see the back of your body, but part of yoga is back body awareness. So try to feel the muscles that are lifting the leg, lift from the inner thigh and kick out through the heel. You're just gonna look straight down at your mat and then extend the left arm, fingertips straight forward. Try to line up your bicep to your ear. As you're doing that, which Kate, like if your shoulders are tight, this is gonna be hard for you. So pay attention to the shoulder blades. Make those muscles work for you. Good, and then you're looking straight down. We're gonna take one more breath here. And then bring the knee and the hand back to the floor. Good. Sit back on your heels for a moment and let's just take the top of the hand, smash it into the mat. So we'll stretch the wrist. And then shake it out a little bit. We'll do the other side before we move on to the other side. Now this is called the bird dog pose, which I know they use it in physical therapy. My husband's chiropractor used it for him when he was having back problems, but it reminds me of the Bird Dog barbecue place now in Fountain. Shake your wrists out a little bit. All right, hand placement one more time. And if your hands are, if your wrists, like in the beginning, it's totally normal for your wrists to feel tired. If they're not strong enough, you can always roll up your mat and put some padding underneath the palms, okay? It's an option. Let's do the other side. Set up your hands the way we talked about, have a good foundation every single time. And then left leg back. Lift from the inner thigh, and now extend the right arm out. Bring your navel towards the spine. So don't let the lower back dip. You want a nice plank-like torso. Another breath or two. And then bring the hand and the knee down. Separate the knees to the edges of the mat, and then bring the big toes together. We're gonna sit back on our heels, come into a child's pose, and extend the child's pose with our hands walking towards the top of the mat. So here, your forehead is gonna be resting on something, either the mat, or you can stack the fists, or if you have a blanket or block, something like that. And we'll be here for a few breaths. Let the sitting bones be heavy towards the heels. And if this is not comfortable for your knees, you can stick a blanket or something behind the knees, or you can shift forward onto your forearms. And if your shoulders are tight, press the fingertips into the mat and feel them kind of spread open and open up a little bit, at least for a breath or two. And this is where you are reminded to surrender to your practice, surrender to all of those things that you cannot control, which is everything around you off of your mat. It's a very releasing posture. You can imagine letting go just out towards the head onto the mat. Your mat will catch these things for you. On your next inhalation, lift the head, lift the torso, and start to walk the hands towards the body just a little bit, not all the way up. We're gonna walk the hands, we're gonna go to the left first. So start walking the hands and walk them as far as you can go where your back stops you, and then kind of soften towards the floor. We're getting into the lower quadrants of the back, like the QL muscles, maybe into the hip. And you might feel a stretch in your, your side ribs and your shoulder. You'll feel it where you need it. One more breath here. And then inhale, lift the head, press the hands, and then walk the hands to the other side. So as far to the right as you can, and then soften down towards the floor and breathe. Inhale, lift. Walk your hands back to center, and then return to hands and knees. You're going to bring your hands at least, let's see, if you can see where my hands are now, they're just in front of the shoulders, but I'm going to take a full palm length forward. We're going to come up into our first downward facing dog. And Liz, I always get super excited when somebody gets to do their down dog for the first time, especially in class. Do like a happy dance. Don't worry about straight legs or anything like that. Robin and Kate, you also just bend your knees, curl the toes under, keep the knees bent, push the floor away from you, and push your hips up and back. Push them up and back until your ears line up with your inner arms. So your heels are off the ground, your knees are bent. And then once you feel a lengthening through the tailbone, then you can start to let the heels be heavy towards the floor and see what your hamstrings allow you to do. But if you start to feel your back rounding, bend the knees again. Most people do a down dog with bent knees. You can pedal the feet out. We're only going to be here for another breath or two, but you can always come out of it if you have to. Good. All right, look up at your hands, and then you start to walk your feet forward. If you need to come to your knees first to do that, you can. And then we're going to bring our hands up to our thighs. We're not standing all the way up yet. Have a nice flat back here. You're still working the shoulder blades. And you're lengthening through the top of the head. Bend the knees slightly. Inhale the arms all the way up. Palms together. Exhale, hands in front of the heart. Are we doing okay? So we made it to standing. Yay. Can we lay back down now? All right. So we're going to do a couple of warriors. We'll do a balancing pose, then we'll probably take it back down to the floor. So I'm going to be moving back and forth so you guys can see me, but most of the time you're just going to be at the front of your mat. So like right now, go ahead to the front of your mat. And, you know, I'm not going to go too much into Tadasana today or mountain pose, but, you know, maybe we'll do that next time. Liz, we're going to definitely go over it next Saturday. So I want to save the surprises for you. Do know though that the inner edges of the feet are parallel. Toes are completely straight. And that when we are standing in mountain pose, it's not just standing. We are ripping the mat apart with our feet. And at the same time, we're squeezing an imaginary block between the thighs. So the legs are really active. And then from the navel up, we are reaching up and lengthening. So we feel all four corners of the feet rooted into the mat. The legs are sturdy pillars and the upper half of the body is floating. Maybe notice the quality of your breath here before we move on. Is it different from the beginning of the class? Is your heart beating a little bit faster? You don't have to be moving quickly to make a difference in the body or the cardiovascular system. Although that's the time when my body really tells me I'm going to die, like when I'm running or something like that. You're definitely going to die. All right, go ahead and release your mountain pose. We're going to take the left leg back. And just one big giant step back. It doesn't have to be too big. We'll find out how your hips feel about it in a minute here. Your heels are going to be, you know, railroad tracks. We're not on a tightrope like this. You will fall over. You want to give your hips room to be able to come forward. So your hips will be pointing straight forward. And this is how your legs will be for warrior one. All right. Bend the front knee, press the outer edge of the back foot, press the inner edge of the front foot. So everything is kind of working and lifting. And now we're going to add the arms, but I want your palms to be facing up towards the ceiling as you do that. So palms are facing up. That way your shoulders can stay grounded. So as your arms go up, you're kind of pressing your shoulders down and letting the shoulder blades or the scapula just smooth nicely down towards the tailbone. Good, and we definitely don't want the knee to go over the ankle here. And you do want your knee to be over your second and third toe. Good, see if you can zip up the abdominals and just lift everything, gather at the lower belly in and up. We're gonna be here for one more breath. And now we're gonna start to tip forward because the real fun is gonna start. So keep your arms up, or you can bring them down and point them back like Superman. You're gonna start to shift the weight forward, keep the right knee bent, and scoot this left foot forward. Just keep looking straight down at the ground, or you can look up at me for a moment to see what you're gonna be doing, and then look straight down. Your toes can stay on the floor, or they can start to lift. If you've practiced this a bunch, maybe see where your edge is, maybe go a little bit further. Good. Toes keep pointing straight down towards the floor. And reaching out through the fingertips. The pelvis stays parallel to the floor. Take another breath if you can. And then bend the knees and bring the feet together and come back to mountain pose. Good, that was warrior three. We're gonna do the other side. So on the other side, since we're kind of focusing on the shoulders, I want you to focus on what your shoulders are gonna do and how, like if there's any corrections, self-corrections you can make with engaging the shoulder blades, okay? So warrior one on the other leg, bring the right leg back. So just like we did on the other side, take the leg back, hips point forward, and then bend the front knee. If you have a tight psoas is a really big muscle that connects the top and bottom half of our bodies together. You're gonna feel it here. It feels like a really good stretch in the front of the right leg. Inhale, bring the arms up, palms face up, shoulders press down. Good, and watch your knee. So you have a bend in the knee, but not over beyond the ankle. The knee is open and the back leg is straight and strong. So press the outer edge of the back foot. Good, and now we're gonna start to tip forward. So decide what you're gonna do with your hands. You can keep them up or point the fingers behind you. Start to shift your weight forward. Nice and slow and mindful. Keep that left knee bent a little bit and just see if maybe the toes can lift. They don't have to. Gather at the lower belly, in and up, and just breathe. Let the ankle wobble, it's doing its job. Yep, and you can always go back into it or you can come out of it whenever you like. So you'll bend both knees and bring the feet together and come back to mountain pose. Good. You ladies look amazing. So good. Robin's like, yes, I'm dying. That's not an easy one. The warriors are really They're strengtheners, man, you know? And Liz, I'm wondering your arms, are you able to get your, how high up are your arms going without the elbows bending? Okay, good. So you have pretty good mobility in your shoulders too. All right, this is helpful. All right, we got to do tree pose. Got to give Liz her first tree pose, although everybody has seen it or done it, but we're going to do it for real in a yoga class. Okay, so shift your weight to your left leg. And if you normally do the pose a certain way, just try something different, okay? You're pressing and engaging the left leg. This right heel is gonna lift, and just remember, your tree can stay here with your toes on the ground. It could be here. If you wanna try it up here, that's fine, as long as you're not bending this hip out. Just keep everything lined up. Just not on the knee joint. Stay away from the knee joint, okay? So let's go ahead and find our tree with our right leg lifted. And if it helps your balance to have the hands in front of the heart, you can do that. We want a focus point on the floor, stare at a spot, don't let go of it, and use your breath to help guide you. Good, if you want to extend the arms, you can. We'll be here for just a few more breaths. Slide the shoulder blades down towards the tailbone. The trapezius are not doing any work here. And one more breath. Point the right knee forward, extend the leg, and bring the feet back together coming out of the pose. Good. I'm going to watch you guys on the other side. So go ahead and press the right foot. Let all the muscles hug the bones. Start to lift the left heel and see where you want to put your foot on this leg. Or maybe not where you want to put your foot, where your body is okay with you putting your foot. Good. And then you can add the arms when you're ready. Hands can be in front of the heart. They could be up and extended over your head. Keep your eyes on one point and breathe. Turn up the corners of your mouth. That means smile. One more breath. Bring the left knee, point it forward. Extend the leg and bring your feet back together. Yep, good, shake the legs out. All right, grab your straps. I'm gonna use my scarf. Okay, so we're gonna separate the feet. And if this ends up being too much, like we're gonna really open the shoulders, but if it ends up being too much, just drop the strap and bring your hands to the floor, okay? The legs need to be separated quite a bit. So beyond the hips for sure. Take your strap behind your back and you're gonna grab it so that your palms are facing forward, okay? Now, the important thing is whenever we're doing a forward fold is that the legs have to be strong. Otherwise, you're going to hurt your hamstring attachments, and that it's called yoga butt. It's not good. It's not good. So lift the kneecaps, engage the quadriceps. Toes are pointing straight forward so we can align the joints. And when you feel ready, go ahead and lift the chest as you inhale. You can watch me go down first, actually, Liz, so you know where we're going with this. As you fold forward, you're going to bring your arms up. And then just let the shoulders go as far as they can, as far as how open they are. And then we're just going to breathe here. You don't want to go beyond, 70% or so of your stretch. Good. And see if you can let the head drop. Keep the legs engaged, keep the abdominals engaged. Yep, and you can bend your knees a little bit here if you need to, especially if you need to protect the lower back. We're going to take one more breath here. And then really press the feet away from each other, engage the abdominals. Inhale, come all the way up and bend your knees if you have to. And release. Good. Now we're going to take that strap and we're just going to bring it overhead with our hands. The feet can be hip width apart or whatever. We're not going to do much with the legs here. We're just going to go back and forth to the right and to the left. So if you have the strap in the right spot, you might be able to, open behind the head too. Let the hands fall behind the head as you go to the right one more time. Good, and to the left one more time. The tighter your shoulders are, the further away you want your hands. You can always bring them closer together. I'm sorry. Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter for this one. But typically, if your shoulders are more open, you want them closer together. All right, go ahead and drop the arms. I feel like that worked the shoulders a lot too. Come to the front of your mat, drop your straps off to the side. We're done with them for today. Inhale, bring your arms up. I feel like my arms just floated right up, didn't you? Exhale, fold. Inhale, look up. And then we're going to exhale and step back and come to hands and knees. Cross at the ankles, have a seat, and you're going to lie down on your back. We did not do one chaturanga today. Robin and Kate, you're welcome. I feel like we had a class last week like that too. Liz, you'll learn what a chaturanga is, trust me, and then you'll never forget. All right, shoulder, it's a good thing, it's good. Shoulders are, shoulder blades are flat. You're gonna bring the knees up one at a time, hug left to right. You might feel a little bit looser in the spine now too, maybe even a little crunching, which is good. That means your spine is moving. And then go ahead and bring the feet down. We're going to straighten the left leg and bring that right knee up to the chest one more time, but this time we're going to bring it into a twist. Now that we're a little bit more open, we're going into a deeper twist. So we're going to take that knee with the left hand, extend the right arm out, take the knee across over the left side of the mat. So just a regular twist here. My explanations just make it seem more complicated than what it is. As your right arm is extended, if it's too much opening, you can bring your arm down or you can rest it on top of a pillow or something like that. And on your next exhale, go ahead and come back to center. Bring that right foot down and straighten it. Bend the left knee, hug it up to the chest. And then we're going to use the right hand to bring the knee off the right side of the mat. The left arm extends. And if your palm is facing up, that does make a difference. If your palm is facing down, you're going to have the shoulder stick up more because it's internally rotated. But what we really want to do is open the chest. So externally rotate the shoulder joint by putting your palm up. You'll notice the difference. With all this sitting and typing or whatever we've been doing, Netflixing, the front pectoral muscles might be pretty tight. Exhale, come back to center. We're going to hug the knees one more time and then maybe take it into a happy baby. So rock the knees back and forth, squish the lower back. And then if you can reach the insides of the legs and push the knees down, you can do that. If you're able to grab the bottoms, the inside bottoms of the feet and press the knees down, go ahead and do that. And then we're rocking left to right. Just one more pretty deep hip opener here. And then knees together, feet come down, straighten the legs, arms overhead for a long stretch. Circle the wrists and the ankles, take a yawn. Yay, you made it. Okay, so we're coming into Shavasana or corpse pose. And Liz, we did this on Saturday, if you remember the relaxation at the end. So get as comfortable as possible. If you want to cover yourself with a blanket, if you want to cover the eyes, or just however you can get warm and comfortable, your body temperature will drop. When you're ready, you're going to straighten the legs, lie down with your arms along the sides of the body and the palms facing up. So you're just lying on your back for this. Yep. And if your back does not feel good with straight legs, you can put something underneath your knees. But try to have that curve in the lower spine. We do want to have that curve in the lower spine. Take a deep, deep breath once you settle. Separate the lips and exhale. And know that you're in a safe place. You can separate the ankles, let the feet hang out to the sides. Begin to soften all the muscles in the face. The forehead, the corners of the eyes, the corners of the mouth. And feel a wave of release going down the neck, the throat, into the chest, shoulders, and entire shoulder girdle, so that your arms can feel heavy. The fingertips can even release. And then come back to the spine. Feeling the muscles around the spine release and soften all the way down the back and into the hips. Feel the upper leg muscles release, thigh bones dropping to the back of the legs. Knees soften, shins, calf muscles, ankles, all soften. And even releasing out through the toes, softening the feet a little bit more. And for the next few moments, when your mind begins to wander, know that that's okay. It's normal. It means you're human. But see if you can start paying attention to the spaces that are in between any thoughts that come out. Just the empty, blank space in between the thoughts. As you give yourself this gift of relaxation.